The situation along the US-Mexico border is once again spiraling, but this time it's not about migration, it's about an emerging economic showdown. According to major outlets like The Washington Post, Reuters, and Bloomberg, Donald Trump is reportedly preparing to unveil a new wave of tariffs targeting countries he believes have exploited America's trust and ignored its pivotal role in the global economy. Surprisingly, Mexico, the United States' closest neighbor and longtime trading ally, has now found itself on that list. For decades, Washington and Mexico City have maintained complex yet mutually profitable ties. But insiders close to the White House say Trump privately remarked that Mexico has grown too comfortable with U.S. markets and needs to remember who sets the rules. These remarks sparked immediate outrage in Mexico, where newly elected President Claudia Sheinbaum faced a defining dilemma: yield to Washington's pressure or strike back. According to Mexico's El Universal, a confidential meeting was held where Sheinbaum vowed that if the U.S. moved forward with tariffs, Mexico would respond in kind. Her administration's message was unambiguous: if Washington chooses to play with fire, we won't stand aside. We're ready to fight back, even if it hurts our own economy. Experts warn that this could be Mexico's boldest move in 2 decades, given that the U.S. remains its largest trading partner, absorbing over 80% of its exports. Analysts at the Financial Times note that Mexico's patience has finally snapped. Since Trump's return to the White House in 2024 and his push to rewrite global trade agreements, the landscape has shifted dramatically. This isn't mere protectionism anymore, it's strategic pressure designed to bend allies into submission. China felt the hit first, followed by South Korea, Germany, and Canada. And now Mexico is in the crosshairs. According to Politico, in early October, Trump directed his trade advisors to draft an executive order imposing 25 to 40% tariffs on select Mexican goods, from auto parts to agricultural exports. The official justification: unfair competition and poor border control. But congressional insiders claim the real motive is political: to coerce Mexico into taking on greater responsibility for migrant flows and tightening border security, under threat of economic isolation. Sheinbaum's response, reported by Reuters, was unexpectedly firm: Mexico will not be treated as a vassal state. We are not a U.S. suburb. We are a sovereign nation with our own policies. And if anyone in Washington doubts that, we'll remind them. Meanwhile, panic rippled through economic circles. U.S. companies with factories in border zones, including Ford, General Motors, and Caterpillar, privately warned the White House that the tariffs could rupture decades-old supply chains and trigger price surges across America. Yet, sources say Trump remains unshaken, viewing this as a chance to bring manufacturing back home and prove to voters that America dictates the terms again. Political observers emphasize that this dispute runs far deeper than tariffs. It marks a potential turning point in global trade dynamics. With China, India, and Brazil forming new economic blocs, Latin American nations, even those reliant on the U.S., are asserting newfound independence. In retaliation, Mexico is already drafting its own countermeasures. As reported by El Financiero, these include raising tariffs on American goods and restricting U.S. companies' access to energy and infrastructure contracts. Discussions are even underway to freeze U.S. participation in key projects under Pemex and the Federal Electricity Commission. Insiders say Sheinbaum's administration is exploring the idea of transitioning bilateral trade to pesos instead of U.S. dollars, reducing dependence on American banks and currency volatility. At the same time, Mexico has begun rallying regional support. According to BBC Mundo, secret consultations have taken place with Brazil, Argentina, and Chile to form a potential Latin American trade alliance as a counterweight to U.S. tariffs. Though still symbolic, the initiative has already raised red flags in Washington. Global analysts now warn that the U.S.-Mexico clash could evolve into the most serious crisis in North American relations since NAFTA. Mutual sanctions could devastate both economies, causing price spikes in U.S. markets and capital flight in Mexico. Yet, as Bloomberg notes, this time feels different. The world has grown weary of Trump's tariff diplomacy, and more nations appear ready to defy him to assert sovereignty. A former U.S. diplomat described it succinctly: Trump is building an empire of fear, but the harder he squeezes, the more allies slip away. For Mexico, this confrontation might mark a point of no return. If Sheinbaum enforces her countermeasures, Washington could face an economic shock right at its doorstep, one that questions not just trade, but the future of North American unity itself. Today, Mexico stands at a historic crossroads: either bow to preserve stability or resist to defend its national pride. And according to insiders within Sheinbaum's circle, the decision has already been made. "We no longer fear Washington," one advisor declared, words that quickly went viral across Mexican social media, becoming the rallying cry for a new political era. But as Le Monde and The Guardian caution, the stakes may be higher than they appear. In recent weeks, U.S. lawmakers have floated proposals to tie Mexico into a new trade framework, one that extends beyond economics to political and security demands. Some call it a new NAFTA, one written entirely on Washington's terms. If enacted, Mexico could lose a measure of its sovereignty, effectively becoming a junior partner in North America. Sheinbaum, aware of this looming threat, has met with major business leaders to redirect export routes and reduce dependence on the U.S. economy. Reports from Milenio Noticias reveal that Mexico plans to expand trade with South America and Europe, with early deals already signed with Spain, Italy, and India to lower tariffs and boost investment. This could mark the beginning of a massive geopolitical shift, one that may finally redefine Mexico's place in the world and challenge America's long-standing dominance over its southern neighbor.